Some providers, the journey may start before the application of interest stage. Some providers may want to track opportunities and also do vacancy matching. The first stage of this is to create the opportunity. This allows you to forecast pipeline, learner volumes and expected revenue. We are completing the information we need to create the opportunity. This includes who the main contact is, estimated close date, currency type and probability, and then giving the opportunity a description. Revenue is generated based on a qualification plan, which is a course or a group of courses linked together to form the qualification plan. So we need to link the opportunity to the qualification plan, taking away the human error. You will see that it will show the expected revenue for this opportunity. Now we're going to create the vacancy. First, giving the vacancy a name, linking it to an employer if that's what you want to do. Then, if you want to post a vacancy to recruit an apprentice, you can tick the available box. You can then add the details to the vacancy, including a full description, postcode, which is very important if you want to do vacancy matching by geographical location. You can also add when it's open, first interview dates, and how many places you have available, along with other information. We are now going to create a provision. Provisions are used to match applicants and vacancies together. We are adding a provision for the business admin standard, linking it to this vacancy. Then, if you collect the applicant's interests as provisions, you can make the two together. We're now going to match applicants to the vacancy. If you want to match applicants to the vacancy based on distance from a certain postcode, you have the option to do so. We are going to match an applicant to this vacancy. The vacancy application has now been created. If we have a look at the vacancy summary, we can see that the applicant has been matched to this vacancy. We can edit and update the application by updating the outcome status as well as other information. As we are applying a media to this vacancy that she's been matched to and been successful with, we can now update the statuses of any other open applications that were in progress for Amelia. This is to state that she's already been successful with the other application. We can update the outcome and the reason for not moving forward with these other applications. I can also use custom workflows and update and move between statuses for the sales cycle and managing the opportunity. This is great because I can see where opportunities are at. You can track all of your vacancy opportunities on a dashboard, showing those that have been won, those that are open, and those that are lost. The solution is really flexible, allowing you to create your own customized onboarding workflows to suit the way you work. These workflows provide consistency, validation, and automation as part of the onboarding process. You can access this from the Workflows menu item. You can have multiple workflows to suit different types of program or provision. For example, if you're a training provider offering both skills bootcamps and apprenticeship, you may want to tailor different workflows for your different provisions, as they will very rarely be the same. If we just go into a workflow, you will see these contain stages on the left and sub-statuses on the right. These are the things that can happen at each stage and can trigger next steps and automation. What we have done here is fully mapped out our onboarding process stage by stage. If we then go into the workflow diagram in more detail, this will outline your full learner journey. If we start at the top in green, we can see the applicants coming into the system in various ways, then on to assign for initial advice and guidance, initial assessments, cognitive assessments, skill scans to be completed, check for RPL, ready for web forms, right the way through to enrolment and sign up. This is your full onboarding process built and fully mapped out. The idea of these workflows is that you capture the applicant at very early stage and you are building the learner's ILR as you go through the process. never having to enter a single piece of information more than once. Building on that information until the learner is ready for sign up. You will see in my workflow, I have a status called Cognosist Assessment Due. As part of your workflows, you can integrate our solution with one of our key partners, Cognosist. Cognosist is an evidence-based neuro-inclusion software platform, and it's designed to support the needs of neurodiverse learners. It offers personalised assessments to identify cognitive and learning challenges, enabling tailored strategies and resources to enhance learning outcomes. Additionally, Cognosist is focusing on identifying and supporting learners with hidden learning needs through its unique digital assessment tool. You can trigger these assessments automatically and pull the results back into the learner record. This helps you evidence inclusion. In a similar way, we can trigger the initial assessments for Maths and English automatically for both the functional skills, emailing the learners with their login details, allowing the learner to complete the assessments and bring those results back into their learner record. We're now going to take a look at qualification plans. Qualification plans are important as they consist of different courses that the learner will do as part of their overall apprenticeship. If we take just a look at one of these, you will see that this qualification plan consists of 3 different programs: the Business Administration Standard, as well as the Functional Skills, Maths and English courses. We can plan when we want these to start, as well as the durations of these courses. We have all of the qualification plan details on the left-hand side. If we go into the Apprenticeship Prices tab, we can also see the training negotiated prices and any agreed negotiated assessment prices. This will be important when we come on to the funding later. For those providers not doing opportunity and vacancy matching, the first step of your journey may start with the application process. We're going to take a look at application forms. You can create and customize your own application forms with your company logo and colours. The idea of the application form is that you can link them to your website. They look and feel like part of your website when in fact they're connected to the Apprenticeship Management Solution database. You can have different forms for different courses or provision and can collect as little or as much data as you wish at the application stage, with a mix of predefined ILR fields and your own user-defined fields too. This is helpful if you want to collect information that is tailored to your provision. You can also collect files and attachments on your form, such as CVs. If we head back to the dashboard, we can see that we have new applicants. Providers are quite often looking to reduce the amount of administration that they do, and by the learner or employer completing the initial application form, you have now created the applicant record in the system. This has eliminated the administration at your end. You can now see on the right an audit trail is available for the applicant, showing you that you have received the application form, completed, and that they have moved on to the next stage in your workflow, which is assigned for advice and guidance. Now that the application has been received, we're going to take a look at some applicant management. As you can see on the right, there is an audit trail so far from the application being received. First, you can create an appointment. You might want to set up an induction meeting, for example. You can add the details of the appointment, including the title of the appointment, type of appointment, time, date, organiser, and attendees, as well as add the appointment description. This will now appear in the calendar view. If I click into the calendar menu on the left-hand side, I can view the central calendar and can filter this by day, week, and month to see all of the appointments. I can also log an email that I've sent to the applicant, or log a call that I've had with the applicant, providing all the details required. For example, I may have had an initial induction call with the applicant that I wanted to record. I can also text a learner via SMS using our third-party supplier. You can purchase and integrate text message credits. I can log tasks against the learner record. I can assign task due dates. I can assign who the task is regarding and who it is assigned to. We also integrate with the Learner Record service to validate ULN numbers for learners, or to create new ULNs for learners that don't already have them. In the Prior Qualifications tab, you can view the applicant's PLR and can draw down any previously registered qualifications for that applicant. I can search and match vacancies to an applicant. I have the options at the top to be able to filter within a certain distance of the applicant's postcode. If I go into the applicant record, we can see that I've linked the vacancy to the applicant. We are now going to go into the summary and update the vacancy. We are telling the system that the vacancy is live and that the applicant has applied, the CV has been received, and the application has been sent. We can now update the overall vacancy to tell the system if the vacancy has been fully filled or whether there are still places available to fill. Finally, we can create appointments for the applicant that is linked to this vacancy. In this instance, we're booking an interview. We can now see that this is live. The vacancy has been linked to the applicant and the vacancy has been updated. This has updated the audit trail accordingly. As part of the onboarding process, we're going to move our learner onto the stage of initial assessments. We can do this by moving from the stage assigned for initial advice and guidance to initial assessment in progress. We're now going to transition our learner to that stage of the onboarding by clicking the initial assessment status and updating. If we look on the right hand side in the growing audit trail for this applicant, we can see that this action has succeeded and the learner account has been set up for them. This will automatically email the learner to inform them that they'll receive another email shortly to set up their account, be able to log in and start their journey with OneAdvanced. The learner has now received a welcome email informing them that account has been set up and to click the Set Up Account button to finish the process. The system is now asking the learner to create a password to be able to access the system. This account will be their single account for everything moving forward, including their e-portfolio access once they're on program. We also support single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. We can see that the functional skills courses have been linked to the learner and they have the option underneath to start those assessments. They can do this by clicking the Start button. They can now proceed through the initial assessments, answering the various questions presented to them, moving on from one question to another. The initial assessment will take approximately 10 to 15 minutes per subject for the learners to complete. Each assessment is 20 questions in total, and questions can fluctuate at different levels dependent on previous answers. We can now see that the learner has completed their maths initial assessment and we get their result. Once we return to the course, we can see that this has triggered the more detailed diagnostic automatically. We have the choice now to proceed with the diagnostic for maths or to start the initial assessment for English. The results have now pulled through to the applicant record, automatically saving manual data entry. Now that the learner's completed that stage of the journey, we're going to move them on to completing a cognisance assessment. We can do that by updating the status again. We can also change their status to completing a skill scan. You may want to wait until they have completed their cognisance assessment first, or you could trigger it straight away. These new tasks have now appeared in the to-do list for the applicant all in one place, meaning the learner can access everything they need to do as part of their onboarding all through one system and one login. We're now going to complete the skill scan. You can create your own scope of scoring, whether that's a 1 to 5 scale or a 1 to 10 scale. You can also create your own descriptions, tailoring the skill scans to meet your needs. You can decide if you just want to complete one combined skill scan or whether you would like the learner, assessor and the employer to also complete a skill scan on that learner. The skill scan is now complete by the learner and we can see the answers providing on the charts. This has updated the status automatically to show that the skill scan is completed by the learner. We are now going to complete the same skill scan, but this time it is the assessor's view of the learner. Now we can see both sets of results pulling through. Now that the skill scans have been completed, we can validate the answers provided before we move on to the recognition of prior learning calculator. This is important as it plays a big part in calculating any off-the-job reductions. Where answers differ between the learner and the assessor can validate which answer they want to take forward, along with supporting notes to suggest why. Where answers are the same, they will be taken forward automatically. Once we've completed this process, we can save the final results, and these results are displayed on the chart. Based on your setup of the skill scans, we can then move into the RPL tab, and the target scan results will suggest any reductions to the off-the-job hours and any reductions in time to the apprenticeship itself. If we are happy, we can copy these reductions through to the learner record. This saves lots of time and automates what would normally be quite a long task. We can also add any final notes as to why we have accepted these reductions to the learner record. Once we have done this, we can save it. Any adjustments will pull through to the learner record. The final stage of onboarding before producing the ILR is to sign the learner up on program. The learner will get an email asking them to sign the form, but this will also appear on the learner to-do list. They can open the form by clicking the sign button. This will open up your customized sign-up form showing the validated skill scan results at the top and the details of the skill scan and reductions underneath. Most, if not all, of this form will be pre-populated as you've gathered this information throughout the onboarding process. You can gather the learner's signatures and capture any additional information that you might need at this point. You should only ever have to capture information once and use many times. And as you have been building the learner applicant record throughout the onboarding process, this information is flood filling into the form directly. This saves a lot of manual data entry time and ensures information is accurate. We are just running through the form, adding any final pieces of information to this learner's sign up before we produce the live ILR record for the learner. As you can see, the adjustments made as a result of the skill scan and RPL calculation have pulled through to the form, showing any adjustments and negotiated prices. Once we've completed the form and captured the final learner signatures, we can submit the form. The final stage is to create the ILR record. We can do this from the Forms Management tile. We can view a summary including the remote signatures that have been captured. These signatures are all date and time stamped. We can view the completed form itself with all the present information. If for any reason we need to reject the form, we can reject it and add justification notes as to why. We're going to approve this form and create the learner record. Before we create the learner's ILR file, we're going to run through the learner creation wizard. This should be an easy process moving from step to step as all the information is present. We can see the reduced off-the-job hours and expected end dates have been amended automatically. As we move through the wizard, double checking the form, we can finally complete the process and we have now created the learner ILR. We can view the completed ILR record. This learner can now be pushed through to create the ePortfolio record. We're going to take a look at some ILR reporting. The solution will create your ILR export for you. This is the file that you'll need to upload to the hub. It's in the correct format with the correct file name. A history of these ILR exports and periods are saved in an audit trail. You can also create projected funding reports. The reports will show you what projected funding you could expect over a period of time based on the ILR data as it is now. Funding reconciliation is also available. Once you have received the reconciliation files back, you can upload them into the system to help reconcile your funding data. This can show you differences where there are any. It's also good to identify funding that you've missed out on due to DLOC errors, for example. There are also an array of report templates available from the system. These include ILR report templates. We're going to choose an in-learning between dates report. You can set your report settings and filters from the options available. You can also add additional optional ILR fields to the report if you wish to do so. You can then move on to the Save and Schedule tab to run the report. Now that we have created and ran the report, we should be able to find it in the Available Reports tab. We can move into chart design, choosing what chart design and filters we want on the report. You can update the chart and see the data instantly. These reports are dynamic, meaning you can drill down into the data by changing the filters, and then you can instantly see your changes to your chart. Here is an example of learners by ethnicity. We are going to take a further look at some ILR performance reporting, starting with personalised dashboards. As you can see here, I've set up a report to show the qualification achievement rates. These reports are dynamic, so I can click to drill down into the raw data. I have created a widget to show the applicant pipeline, so I can see how many applicants I have at the different stages. Again, I can click on the bars and drill down further to see whose learners they are. I have a projected funding by learner report. This report is showing me my different funding streams and where the projected revenue is coming from. If I drill down into the data, I can see learner by learner, month by month, what projected funding I may expect. I've created an assessor caseload report. If I drill down further, I can see an assessor's caseload and which learners they have. Then we move on to the projected funding by individual items for next 12 months. I have built this to show exactly where the funding may come from, including the event period, the funding amount, and the event description. Then I have a year-to-date funding report, showing my year-to-date funding. I can drill down into any month to see what funding I've gotten and where that funding has come from. I also have my Apprenticeship Accountability Framework report. This is an out-of-the-box report to show me our performance against the Apprenticeship Accountability Framework. The thresholds explain if we are green, on track, amber, needs improvement, or red, at risk. I can drill down into these individual reports to see which learner records need attention. I can also edit the report widgets and add my own language and set the at-risk thresholds. The thresholds are set at the standard thresholds, but if you want to change them to get even earlier warnings, you can. These thresholds will then affect the colours and risks on your dashboard. Now that the learner has completed onboarding and their ILR has been produced, the learner is now automatically pushed through to the ePortfolio. This creates the live learner ePortfolio record and has automatically attached the relevant standards, courses, start and end dates, and also the assessors. The solution has a range of out-of-the-box accessibility options that all users, including the learner, can choose to personalise their login. This is particularly beneficial for learners with specific learning needs or difficulties. Whether that be improving colour distinction for those learners with colour vision deficiency, or reducing distractions for those learners with ADHD or attention-related needs. These are just a few of the accessibility options we have available to choose. The learner can also see a calendar of events. Any date with a dot underneath it signifies that they have something on that day. If I click on one of those days, the learner can see that they have a session planned with their assessor. The learner can then see the detail of the session below the calendar. This example is showing that the learner has a review on the 24th between 12 and 2 p.m. I can hide the calendar if I want more screen space. The learner can then see some progress bars at the top of their screen. The first bar on the left indicates progress against the knowledge, skills and behaviours of the standard. As we can see here, we have a light green bar showing the amount of evidence that's been mapped. the dark green bar, which is what's been signed off versus the target. We can also see a progress indicator on the far right hand side telling me if I'm on track or not. The bar on the right is showing me progress of my off the job. I can see a purple bar showing progress of off the job hours versus my target to date. And again, I can see an indicator showing if I'm on track or not. Below that, I can see my next up and coming session. I can see that I have a formal review with my assessor on the 24th of June. If I'd like to email message my assessor ahead of the session, I can use the message button on the right hand side. Then I have my to-do list, easily showing me anything I need to action across my apprenticeship. It indicates whether these to-do items are outstanding or overdue. It shows me what documents I might need to sign, any outstanding actions, and I can click the button on the right hand side to action that particular item. As a learner, I also have the ability to add and upload evidence of competency or off the job hours. This can be done really easily by clicking the Add button at the top of the screen. By clicking Add, I can then upload my evidence by following a simple step-by-step wizard to complete the task. The simple three-step process includes uploading the evidence, mapping the evidence, and then completing the task. I'm going to start by finding and selecting my evidence to upload. Once I've done that, I will then give my evidence a name and then give my evidence a description. If at this stage I would like to map my evidence to off the job hours, I can do this by ticking the box. This now allows me to create my off the job record. This makes the task of linking my evidence to off the job and knowledge, skills and behaviours really simple, as it can be done in one workflow. This includes adding when I did it, the time taken, the activity type, and most importantly, the impact that off the job had. By clicking Next, I can map my evidence. All of the knowledge, skills and behaviours of the standard are in front of me, allowing me to simply map evidence quickly and easily across the entire standard and into any other qualification that I might be doing. The final stage is to confirm and send this evidence. This is done in a final summary. The first tab provides an overview of the evidence file and the learner declaration, as well as the off-the-job comments. The second tab shows the suggested mappings that have been added. If I click Send, this will send my evidence to my assessor and I will get a message to say that it has been sent for assessor approval. I can either submit more evidence at this stage or close the wizard down. I can also access things as a learner from the menus on the right hand side. The first is my to-do list. In here, I can see what I have outstanding, but also what I've already completed. Like on my dashboard, I can action the items by clicking on the buttons on the right hand side. I can also use filters based on whether they are signatures required or actions that need completing. I then have my time log for my off the job record. I can see my overall progress. This is broken down into target hours to date versus what's been submitted to date and against my overall plan total. On the right hand side, I can see if I'm on track with my off the job. If I scroll down, I can see all of my off the job records within my portfolio. I can also add new off the job records by clicking on the Add Hours button at the top of the screen. Then I have my evidence progress. I can see my target versus what's been submitted, and then of that, what's been signed off. And on the right, I can see if I'm on track. If I scroll down, I can add new pieces of evidence. And I can also use the filters to filter evidence by date or with off the job attached. I can see all the evidence files in my portfolio, when they were uploaded, mappings, as well as guided learning hours associated with them. Any evidence files with a star next to them, I have selected as potential showcase pieces of evidence that I might want to take forward for endpoint assessment. I can also use the starred filter just to show those selected pieces of evidence. Finally, I can see my progress. I can see what percentage of evidence is signed off versus my target and what's been submitted. And again, on the right hand side, I can see if I'm on track or if I have evidence missing. I can view progress at a granular level, looking at the individual knowledge, skills and behaviours of the standard to see if they are in progress or complete. I can even open up these to see what evidence files I have uploaded and mapped against them. Wherever I am in the portfolio as a learner, I can click the Home button. This is always going to take me back to my home screen. We're now going to take a look at how assessors can manage their caseloads. In the same way that learners can change their accessibility settings, assessors can do the same. They can do this from the accessibility setting when they click on their profile in the top right hand corner. Assessors also have their own calendar where they can see all of their up and coming sessions. Any date that has a dot underneath it indicates that the assessor has sessions that day. If the assessor clicks on a date, it will show what sessions they have underneath the calendar space. Assessors can also hide the calendar if they no longer need it. This will give them more screen space. The assessor dashboard serves up everything the assessor needs to do in their to-do list. Their to-do list will show a number of things: any skill scans that need to be completed, any signatures that are missing, any evidence that has been uploaded that needs their attention, and any off-the-job records that need to be reviewed. This improves efficiency for the assessor, as rather than going in and out of individual learner portfolios one by one, they can see this activity holistically across the entire caseload in one place. As you can see here, I have 13 different off-the-job records that have been added by my learners. If I click on the off-the-job tile to review, it will display all records from all of my learners that are awaiting my review. I can simply click the View button against the off-the-job record that I need to review. Check the details that have been added by the learner, and then at the bottom of the side drawer, I can mark it as reviewed. This will then update my dashboard. Now let's take a look at missing signatures. If I click that tile, it shows that I'm up to date on all of my signatures. But what I can also see are that signatures are missing from learners and employers. If I click this option, I now see a list of all the reviews that I'm waiting signatures from the learner and the employers. If I want to send a reminder email to them, I can simply click the nudge button, which will then trigger a reminder email asking them to sign the review. There is a similar process for reviewing evidence that learners have uploaded. If I click the evidence review tile, this is going to show me all pieces of evidence that my learners have uploaded. I can go into any of these records by clicking on the View button. I can now see all of the details against this evidence, including the evidence file itself, the mappings, and below all of this, I can see the knowledge, skills and behaviours that it's mapped to. If the learner is working towards more than one qualification, I'm able to see the mappings holistically across them. I'm able to go into the mapping screen and review the mappings that have been added. And as the assessor, I can add, remove and amend the mappings if I feel I need to do so. I can do this holistically across the entire standard of knowledge, skills and behaviours all in one place. To finish this process, if I'm happy with the evidence, I'm able to mark the evidence as complete. And I can provide my feedback in the assessor feedback and points for improvement box. If I want to provide some constructive feedback and send this back to the learner to amend, I can use the send back option. This will alert the learner. I can also use the integrated AI functionality to rewrite my feedback if I feel it needs to be improved. This is a real time saver to ensure that assessors are giving good quality feedback to their learners. What this does is provide some suggestions on how the assessor can improve their feedback. I can even click the update feedback button, which will copy and paste the improved assessor feedback into the feedback box, saving me time. And by clicking the submit button, I have now marked the evidence as complete. Moving down to my learner list, I can see the number of learners I have in my caseload. I can see who the learner is, what standard they're on, when they have their next progress review, and key progress data on off the job and knowledge, skills and behaviour progress, indicating if the learners are on track or not. If I have large caseloads, I can use the search function to find a learner by their name. I can also use a sort function to sort learners in alphabetical order or by next review date. Using the additional filter options, I can also filter learners where I may be the primary assessor, secondary assessor or additional assessor. I can filter learners based on what apprenticeship standard they're on or even by their employer. I can filter by start, before date and then finally by different review statuses. If I want to see a learner in more detail, I can go into their portfolio by clicking the View button in the bottom corner of their tile. Here I have a number of tabs I can navigate through. The first tab is the tasks. I can immediately see what tasks the learner has that requires attention, up and coming tasks and tasks that have already been completed. For those tasks that still require attention, I can easily send the learner a nudge notification by clicking the nudge button. If there is anything that the learner has added that needs my attention, I can click the check button. The next tab is the Details tab. This tab simply provides the assessor details on both the learner and the employer. I can also see what courses the learner is enrolled onto. The next tab is the learner's time log. At the top of this tab, I can see the detailed progress of the learner with their off the job, including overall hours submitted, target hours to date, versus what's been submitted, and their total planned hours for the course. I can also see if the learner is on track or has missing hours. As we can see with this learner, they are currently off track as their target to date and progress bars are very different. If I scroll down, I can see all of the off-the-job records and details, including if the record has any linked evidence and the total off-the-job time spent on that particular log entry. The green tick indicates if the entry has been reviewed, and I can view the log entry by giving the View button a click. I can also log off-the-job entries on behalf of my learner by clicking the Add Hours button and then completing the log entry. The next tab is the Evidence tab. At the very top, I can see the learner's progress of the knowledge, skills and behaviours. Firstly, I can see what evidence percentage has been signed off. I can see their target to date, what's been submitted and what's been signed off to date. I can see the learner is well on track at the moment. If I scroll down, I can see all of the learner's evidence files, including where it was uploaded, the mappings that have been added, the total off-the-job time linked with the evidence, and the green tick indicates that the evidence has been reviewed. If I want to go and view the evidence in more detail, I can do this by clicking the View button on the right-hand side. I can also check any evidence that has been uploaded. I've got more.
Just keep going.
Any evidence with a star highlighted indicates that this is a showcase piece of evidence that could be used for endpoint assessment. I can also check any evidence that has been uploaded that I haven't currently checked. From here, I can simply click the check button, mark the evidence as complete. I can see the original mappings that have been added, and I can now amend those mappings. Mark the evidence as complete, and finish by providing the learners with some constructive feedback. I could also use the built-in AI read-write feedback option if I felt my feedback needed improving. You can now see the check button has now disappeared as the evidence has now been reviewed. The next tab allows me to see the learner progress in detail. I can see progress on all courses that they are on, target to date, what's been submitted to date, as well as what's been signed off by myself. I can see that this learner is on track. If I want to see progress in more detail, I can click the View Progress button. This now opens up all of the knowledge, skills and behaviours of the standard. Each one of these has a status on the right hand side. As you can see, all of the knowledge elements have been completed. If we move on to the skills, these have also been completed too. But if we move on to the behaviours, we can see that some of these have a different status as they haven't yet been started. This provides a really granular view of progress of that learner. We then move into the Documents tab. This tab will store any documentation that was completed as part of the onboarding process. This includes signed training plans, apprenticeship agreements, and other forms that were completed, keeping them all in one place. Finally, we have the Skills Scan tab. This will pull through the completed skill scan from the onboarding stage. I can see the results of the skill scan by learner, assessor, and employer, and everybody. I can also see the answers that were provided as part of the skill scan. We are able to conduct further skill scans now that the learner is on programme and can compare results to show the distance travelled in impact. The assessor can use the AI overlay function to query data on their own learners. They can do this by selecting the pages that they would like to query and by using the Ask Me Something box. They are able to type in a query. Here's a simple query. Do all of my learners have planned reviews in place? Can you please inform me of when all of my learners have their next review and highlight those that haven't got a review planned for the future? The AI has instantly queried that data and given me results, showing all those learners that have planned reviews and when, but also shows me those learners without a forward plan review date. This task has taken me seconds rather than minutes to do. Let's just try another one. Please can you display all learners off the job versus their target in a bar chart? Now the AI is looking at the data, it's now rendering the chart for me, and I can instantly see a bar chart showing all learners off the job progress versus their overall target. Let's add another one. Now can you tell me which learners are off track with their off the job, please? Instantly I can see a list of all my learners that are off track with their off the job, and it indicates that only 2 of my learners are on track. Using the AI provides meaningful insights in seconds. Now we're going to look at some of the AI agents available to the assessor. I'm going to go and try the Apprenticeship Activity Generation agent. This is going to quickly build an activity targeted at specific knowledge, skills and behaviours, taking into account the learner's preferences. The first step is to prompt the agent with the knowledge, skills and behaviours that we want this task to meet. Then we add what standard they're on, the suggested time for the activity, and the preferred evidence format we want. Now let's run the agent. That agent's now finished, and we now have a full activity brief providing a scenario, tasks, evidence for the portfolio, the knowledge, skills and behaviours that it's going to cover, along with some guidance for success and the suggested time for the task also. These agents are working hand in hand with the assessors to automate what would have been quite timely tasks, giving them more time to spend back with their learners. Finally, users of the system have built-in guided tours. This is really good to help with engagement. If you're new to the system and want a bit of assistance, the help tours will guide you around some of the key areas of the system, helping you to get comfortable with it. Employers are able to engage in the apprenticeship management solution and see progress of their apprentices in the system, providing real-time insights on their learner progress. In the same way all users can, employers can also change the accessibility settings from their profile in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Employers have their own calendar view of the learner events. Any date with a dot under them indicates that one of their learners has a session with their assessor on that day. This is really important for employers who will need to be present and attending these reviews, so having this visibility is really important to them. As we can see here, the employer is checking the calendar to see what up-and-coming review sessions are taking place to ensure that they're available to attend these review sessions in the future. The employer can hide the calendar view if they would like more screen space to be able to see their learners on screen. They can do this by clicking the Hide Calendar option at the top of their screen. This expands the dashboard. They can also show the calendar again if they need to by clicking the Show Calendar option. Employers can see their to-do list at the top of the screen. This is providing them with quick and simple access to anything that they need to action. As we can see here, the employer has been notified that 2 signatures are missing from progress reviews. This is easily displayed on the tile. By clicking the Signatures Missing tile, it opens up a side drawer, instantly showing any reviews that need to be signed, all in one place. The employer is then able to click the View and Sign button to take them directly to the progress review so that they can view and sign the form. Once done, the number on the tile will then update instantly. The employer can see their own apprentices on the dashboard. This employer has 4 learners. Each learner has a tile and the employer can see who the learner is, what apprenticeship standard they're on, when the next review is, and they can see progress of evidence of knowledge, skills and behaviours, and if the learner's on track for that. Then finally, the off-the-job progress, and if they're on track or off track for that. Employers can sort their learners using the sort options. They can sort by alphabetical order or by next review date. If the employer has lots of learners, they are able to show more learners on a page using the option on the bottom right of the screen. This changes how many learners are displayed at any one time. An employer can go into any one of their learner portfolios by clicking the View button on that learner's tile. The employer then sees a number of tabs associated with the learner at the top of the screen. The first tab is the Documents tab. This will contain any documents that were completed as part of the onboarding process, making them easily accessible to the employer. These documents could be things such as training plans, apprenticeship agreements, application forms, amongst others. Employers can see when these documents were added and can also download these completed forms. The next tile is the time log, displaying up-to-date progress tracking on learners off the job. This shows their overall progress, target hours to date, what's been submitted to date, and their total planned off-the-job hours for this course. The employer can clearly see that this learner is off track with their off the job, submitting only 7% versus a target of 32%. The employer can see that the learner is missing off the job hours and this progress is displayed. If the employer scrolls down, they can see a full log of off the job entries. This includes what was delivered, the time spent on it, the type of activity that took place, any linked evidence to the off the job record, and the green tick indicates that this off-the-job entry was added by the learner and has been reviewed by the assessor. They can also see time spent on the off-the-job task, and they can click to view all the off-the-job record details if they wish. Employers can use the filters available to filter any off-the-job records added between 2 dates. They can also filter the list to only show off-the-job records that have evidence linked to them. The next tab is the Evidence tab. This shows the full evidence library for the apprentice. We can see at the top what progress is being made towards the knowledge, skills and behaviours. This is broken down into target to date, submitted to date, and what's been signed off to date. We can see here that this learner is ahead of their target. The green signed off bar is greater than their current target. This is displayed as on track on the right hand side. If we scroll down, the employer can see a full list of evidence files in this learner's e-portfolio. The employer can see what evidence files have been uploaded and their name, the date the evidence was uploaded. They can see the mappings against this evidence file, and they can also see the off-the-job hours linked to that piece of evidence if they've been linked. The green tick indicates that the evidence and mappings have been reviewed by the assessor. If they want to view the details of this evidence, they can click the View button to open it up. They can see and download the evidence file. They can view all of the mappings that were made, and they can view the off-the-job impact statement and the time spent on the off-the-job task linked to the evidence. Any evidence with a yellow coloured star indicates to the employer that this evidence is highlighted as a showcase piece of evidence that could be used for endpoint assessment. Employers can use the filter on the dashboard to see just those showcase pieces of evidence. The employer can also use the additional filters on the dashboard to filter evidence by upload date, or they can choose to only show pieces of evidence that have got off-the-job linked to them. The next tab is the Progress tab. This provides the employer with full visibility of their apprentice's progress. If the learner is doing more than one course, for example a mandatory qualification or some functional skills, they will also appear here too. The employer can see the target to date, what's been submitted, and what's been signed off by the assessor. They can see that this learner is well on track. If we take a look at their progress bars, we can see that 44% of this learner's knowledge, skills and behaviours have been signed off. That's against a target of 31%. We can see that on track status for the learner on the right hand side. If the employer wants to see progress at a more granular level, they can do this by clicking the View Progress button. This will now display a list of the full knowledge, skills and behaviours that the apprentice is working towards. On the right hand side, the employer can see the current progress status for each competency. We can see here that the learner has a mixture of in progress and completed competencies. If the employer clicks a drop down arrow to the side of a knowledge, skill or behaviour, they can see a full list of evidence files that have been mapped to it. The final tab is the Skill Scan tab. This gives visibility to the employer of any skill scans that were completed as part of the onboarding programme. They can see skill scan results by learner, assessor, employer, and all, depending on who's contributed. And they are able to compare answers to previously completed skill scans to show the distance travelled. If we now head back to the dashboard as an employer, I'd like to finish with the AI functionality for the employers. They can also take advantage of the AI overlay to run quick and simple queries on their apprenticeship data. For example, let's put a prompt into the AI. Please can you inform me if all of my learners have a planned review date in place? Now let's run the AI and see what we get back. It's instantly come back to tell me that based on the data, all apprentices that I employ have a forward plan review date in place. It is telling me who the learners are, when the next review date is scheduled, and what time the reviews are scheduled, and all the learners have a planned review in place. Employers can use the AI to quickly run queries on their apprenticeship data and get instant responses, saving them lots of time.